Welcome to Plant Liker, episode 6. I'm steveroggenbuck, and this is the podcast of me. Welcome. I was in a sensory deprivation tank the other day. That's kind of an intense name for it, sensory deprivation tank. It's also called an isolation tank or just a float tank or something. Basically what it is that there's a bunch of Epsom salt or magnesium sulfate or something like that. It's a salt of a certain type that is dissolved in this water in such a way that it makes you very buoyant in it, and you float in this water more easily than other water. Also, it's inside this enclosure where you can't see anything, and there's not that much to listen to either, and the water is heated so that it's supposed to be the same temperature as your body. So the idea is that you don't have that much sensory input, and you just are in there for a long time. I was in there for 90 minutes, and it sounds a little more intense than it was to me. For me, it was mostly just relaxing. But, you know, people use it in this very spiritual way, in this way like, oh my God, I'm going to see visions or something, you know. And for me, it wasn't that outstanding, but I guess it builds every time you do it, sort of in the same way that meditation. It's a practice that if you do it regularly, it maybe has more accumulating benefit or impact or whatever. But it was kind of interesting. The reason I did it was I got to go for free. My host in Chattanooga was like, you want to go in a sensory deprivation tank? And I was like, wow, sounds kind of spooky, but sure, life experiences, you know. Sometimes I'll be presented with a possibility of something I could do, right? And there's a part of me that's like, I don't really feel like doing it, or it seems like work, or it seems like something kind of a little out of my comfort zone, like, I might just not. But then another part of me is like, you know what? This is a life experience that, like, I do it once, you know, I spend an hour on this or whatever, and then for the rest of my life, it's something that I have done, and it's a perspective that I have that I otherwise wouldn't have had, and you know, that sort of thing. So it's like, I decided to do it, and yeah, it was pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I would not pay to do it regularly, but it did get me more excited about meditating regularly, which I've been doing a little bit more since then. Basically, I was just in there. I was thinking about stuff. I was relaxing, floating there. It's pretty comfortable. Sort of just focusing on my breathing for a while like I would with any other sort of meditation, and I was like, wow, it has to be past the halfway point of 90 minutes by now, right? It's like, but it kept going, like the time went for a long time. It was pretty cool, though, because I did get very relaxed feeling by the end, and then afterwards, I just felt very light. I felt like it was very easy to be happy after. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the few hours immediately following it, it was just easier to be, like, chill and happy. Like, I would think about something that normally stresses me out, and it just, like, didn't really feel that bad. It didn't really feel that stressful. So it was kind of nice. I probably would do it regularly if it was free regularly, but it's not. At the place that I went, the regular price is $80 to do it. So I would recommend doing it once if it sounds interesting to you, at least, but I was not blown away by it or anything. Also, it sounds a lot more intense than it was. Really, the place I went to was very just like new age spiritual. Like, they had crystals in the lobby. You know what I'm saying? That type of place. So it wasn't like this tank in like this cellar somewhere or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds like a lot more satanic than it actually was. It wasn't that satanic. Unfortunately, it was not that satanic. I'll mention a couple more things about the sensory deprivation tank, though. I did have a funny moment in the middle of it when I just started laughing, and I couldn't, like, I had no reason why I was laughing. It just, like, I just started laughing. That was kind of fun. And then I started laughing for a specific reason after that, which was that the guy in the lobby who was very chill, like, you could tell he did this tank thing a lot, or else he was
just very chill or something, but he was just the calmest person in the world. But anyway, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to put on some music for you when it's done so that you know that you should get out," or whatever. And I was just laughing because I was imagining, like, what if he puts on, like, deathcore music or something, you know? Or what if he puts on, like, really aggressive, like, rap music about killing police or something, you know? Just something, like, that would really be a shift from the maybe it wouldn't be a shift, depending on your experience. Anyway, okay. Well, that's that. I was also in England and a couple other European countries the other month, and I didn't really get to talk about that on this podcast yet. I had a good time over there. I was worried about it, as I said in episode 5, but everything turned out fine. They were not that suspicious of me at customs or anything. It was pretty chill, and I just performed my poetry. I was surprised by the size of audience I had in Sweden. I mean, it wasn't a ton, but it was like 30 people, and I was like, okay. And then I asked them to raise their hand if they had seen multiple videos of mine or so, and like almost everyone did. And I was like, wow, these people in Sweden actually know who I am. That's pretty wild. There was big turnouts in London. London was a lot of fun. Oxford was my first ever English reading, and the audience was very nice. And I had a weird experience at that reading where I just started waving to the poet at the end of their poem. Like, everybody started clapping, and I just started waving to the poet. And I was like, what the hell am I doing right now? That was a very mysterious occurrence. I don't know what was happening to me. But a lot of stuff was weird over there, you guys. And the thing about it is, it's interesting because things are different from in the U.S., but there's also a lot of stuff that's the same. You know, like there still is English language around on a lot of the signs, especially in England, but also in a lot of the other countries I went to. But people's accents are different. Certain words are different. You know, they sometimes use the 24-hour time, which we almost never use in the U.S. Well, I'll give you some examples of some words that are different. Nappies. I didn't know this word, nappies. Turns out that's a word for diapers over in there in England. Yeah, I thought it was like going to be pajamas or something when I heard it. Nappies sounds like pajamas, but no, that's diapers. There was some weird occurrences where I had been told growing up that people in Europe or people in England say things, and then I got there and people don't actually say them. Like water closet, meaning the bathroom, meaning the toilet room. That I was told that they call it water closet over there. Turns out that they really don't. Sometimes you will see WC on bathroom doors in Europe, and it's like, oh, there's water closet, WC. But nobody refers to it as water closet. Most people didn't even know that that's what WC stands for, even though they've been living there. That was my experience from interviewing a few people about it anyway. And then I thought there was another big conspiracy with what I've been told English people say, and that was that I thought I was told that they say bubbler for the water fountains. And I was like, you guys say bubbler for water fountains? Is that true? And they were all like, no, nobody here has ever said that. And I was a little confused. And then I looked it up online later, and actually that's a Wisconsin thing, not an England thing. So that's why. Bubbler, though. Wow. Wild world we live in. Wild world. Also, I heard that they use the word interesting a little bit different in England. In the U.S., we don't necessarily mean anything positive when we say interesting. In fact, sometimes when you say that something's interesting, it can be a roundabout way of saying it's not great. Like, somebody can ask you like, did you like my art piece? And you can say, it was interesting. And that would mean that it's not necessarily that great, but it's, there's stuff that you could be interested, but it's not really good. But in England, I mean, it could be good, but that's not what you're necessarily saying. But in England, I guess it necessarily means good to some degree. I don't know. This is what I was told. Also, I was told that the word quite is used differently in England, and I have found this to be true since then. When we say quite in the US, we mean like particularly, like extra, like extremely almost. Like it was quite awesome. It means it's like, wow, that's very awesome. But in England, I guess it means mildly awesome, like just a little bit awesome. If you say it was quite awesome, it was a little bit awesome, you know? I was taking some survey that was created by I think by a British person or an Australian person, somebody, and they were saying, would you rate this value as being very important, quite important, or not important? And I'm like, very important and quite important, and then drop down to not important. I mean, give me a medium option there. But to them, quite important is the medium option. Wow! Very rare. Let me tell you something that was even a little weirder when I was over there. I was in Sweden and I was given my reading. No, I was in Norway first. I was standing at a bus stop and I saw 3 minutes till the next bus, and I'm like, nice, the bus is coming shortly. And then I was standing there and I was like, it seems like it's taking a long time. Like it seems like more than 3 minutes, okay? And I was like, wait, do they have longer minutes over here? Is this like they have a metric minute over here or something? Is that why it's taking longer? Turns out, of course, no, they have the same minutes, but I was genuinely unsure at first, because things will just get you like that. They're the little things that are different that you don't remember. I was in Sweden, I was giving my reading at the cafe, and I read in my story, I said, I'm older. I'm 14 and 4 months. That's a line from one of my stories, saying that I'm 14 years old. And then I was like, oh no, do they know what years are? Do they know what months are here? That was a thought that I had for a second, and then I was like, well, duh, they do. Duh, years are the same. It's the number of times the planet has revolved around the sun. It's not going to be different on the other side of the planet. Hello! You know what I'm saying? So, those were interesting things. Europe was fun, pretty chill. I guess it's very cheap to live in Berlin. That was kind of cool to see around Berlin. People seem tired in Berlin, is what I heard from everybody. They're like, oh, everybody's tired here. So that's the thing. I also have one more personal story to share since it's been so long since the last episode. I took some very long bus rides across the country. It was because I got them free. Because I take a lot of Greyhound buses, and I don't recommend Greyhound, by the way, really, but I'll talk more about that. If you do end up buying a lot of Greyhound bus tickets, I do recommend signing up for a road rewards account. It's just, the rewards account where, you buy this many tickets and you get one free or whatever, or you get 15% off a ticket, or you get a friend to come with you for free on a ride, stuff like that. And so I had earned a free ticket because of all my touring last year, just tons of touring. I think I got up to 16 points or 15 points gets you a free ticket. So anyway, I had a free ticket, and then I cashed it in on a cross-country trip because I was looking up the flight costs to get across to New York from California, and I'm like, oh no, I waited too long to buy this ticket. It's like $300. This sucks. I don't have $300 right now to spend on that. And then I remembered I had the free Greyhound ticket, and I'm like, oh, it's time to cash it in, so I was like, why not cash it in on the longest possible route, so I took the Greyhound bus from Oakland, California to New York City. It was 3.5 days. I think it would normally only be like 3 days, but there was a delay in there because I missed a transfer because of a bus being late. So anyway, it was 3.5 days that I was in Greyhound buses, Greyhound stations, rest stops, and the like. And the worst part was that I did not get enough sleep. I felt sleep deprived. And that was like making my body feel kind of icky. I did pack some good food, and I do have some quick travel food tips. Now, I could definitely do I could do a video or a longer podcast where I'm talking about travel, vegan food tips, but here's just a quick one. I got this tip. I mean, obviously, a lot of times I bring a can opener and I bring cans of beans because that's like a real healthy thing that you can eat, and it's like it's like, wow, this is pretty healthy. Just slam back some beans. So I did that. I also, when I ran out of canned food, I did find at some gas stations they'll sell cans of corn. Of course, the sodium content is quite high, but it's whole food, it's corn, and it's overpriced as well at these gas stations. But hey, I was like, I'd rather eat this than the other junk that they have here. So I overpaid for the corn, and I was slamming some corn as well. And then the big tip that I have, oh, wait, one other small tip before the big tip. I also was eating tons of Lara bars. Now, Lara bars, okay, so when I'm traveling, a lot of times I'll end up buying Cliff bars, or sometimes, I don't know, Odwalla bars. Those are less common in like airport convenience stores and gas stations, but sometimes there will be these energy bars that are vegan, and the Cliff Builder bars, the protein bars made by Cliff, those are quite good sometimes, but I mean, they kind of make you feel like you're eating junk food, because they kind of are, I think. But they're, they pack a lot of energy. Could be worse for you. They're okay. But these Lara bars were good to stock up, I feel, because they're just fruit and nuts mostly. Now, of course, I actually packed one that did have chocolate chips in it or something, so it had some chocolate, and that made me feel a little more like I was eating junk food. But generally, Lara bars are a nice one to pack because they're actually just fruit and nuts. Whereas with Cliff bars, they're supposedly like decently healthy, but I see that it's brown rice syrup and it's these other like processed ingredients. So I don't know. I'm not against Cliff, but I think the Lara bars are more close to a whole food, and I think I really trust Whole Foods, That's why recently I was on Twitter, I was saying that garbanzo beans straight out of the can is greater than Soylent. Because I feel that it's a similar sort of thing. You can just slam it out of the can. It takes no preparation. It's just sort of a meal replacement almost. Garbanzo beans right out of the can, right? Or any other beans right out of the can. But I think it's better than Soylent, even though Soylent is like, it's formulated to have all the perfect amount of vitamins and minerals that you need and all that. But it's like, okay, one, humans don't really know all the vitamins and minerals that you need, because when you get into phytochemicals and all that, there's a lot more complicated stuff happening than what we know. Two, a lot of the vitamins and minerals are not absorbed as well from supplements and stuff. You need them in the whole foods. They work a lot better when you eat them as part of the whole food. So that's why I think garbanzo beans is greater than Soylent. Also, it's just my style. Eating beans out of a can, it's more rare, it's more shocking. The tip that I was going to say, the big tip, is that I was preparing for this tour, for this 3.5-day bus ride, and a friend in Oakland said that her uncle used to take these really long bus rides across the U.S., and she said that what he'd do is that he'd get a loaf of bread, and then he'd make sandwiches out of that whole loaf, and then put the sandwiches back in the loaf bag. So that's what I did. I got a bag of some multigrain bread. I don't know if it was that healthy or not, but I made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with every slice of it, and then I put them back in the bag, and then I had like 11 sandwiches or something in the bag, and that was very helpful to have that, just this go-to meal like that. And then I also packed some fruit, and they do have apples and oranges and bananas at some of these gas stations and Greyhound stations, but, sometimes they're very old. Sometimes it's like, oh, y'all don't ever sell these. And then I come up and I buy 5 oranges in one go, and it's like, this is probably as much as they've sold in the last month or something. But anyway, those bus rides, I don't know, it was a mixed bag, I can't complain in the one sense because I got the tickets for free, but it's really not that great of an experience. It's kind of an experience to do it once or twice, maybe, to do a really long bus ride, but it's like, it kind of sucks because Greyhound doesn't really respect its customers. This is one thing that I have just noted. They'll just have a bus that's like, an hour or two late, and there won't be any updates or anything. There won't be any vouchers for apologies for the late bus. They probably won't even say sorry. They sometimes the driver will say that or something, but it's like, they're kind of just like, they just have their shitty service, and then you just have to deal with it. And that's just sort of the status quo at Greyhound. Like, more than half of the toilets that you encounter through Greyhound will be, at least in the men's bathroom and on the buses, they'll just be covered in piss. The toilet seat will be covered in piss. And so it's like, okay, I have to take like a few minutes to wipe this off before I can sit on it, if I'm going to sit. So it's not that great of an experience. But hey, I got a lot of reading done. And if I had an idea of what I wanted to be writing, I could have gotten a lot of writing done. Nice. Well. Now I just have, that was a long intro, these personal stories here. I'm catching up with y'all, but I got a couple questions I wanted to answer or talk about. This question I was wondering about how you learned to edit your YouTube videos. What program do you use? How long does it usually take you? What have you learned since you started years ago? I like your videos and I think they're edited really well. Well, thank you. I'm glad you think that. The program I use, recently it's Final Cut Pro X. And before that, I just used iMovie a lot, because it came with my computer. And honestly, most of the popular videos of mine, like Make Something Beautiful Before You're Dead and all that, those were made using iMovie. I do like that Final Cut Pro will allow me to put images on top of my video, or one video on top of another, like make it so it's half transparent playing over it, or do something where, it flashes the tiger over the other things. So I do appreciate what Final Cut Pro X allows me to do, but mostly the editing process is pretty similar. So what I do is I just, I record a lot of different footage. Sometimes I've said that, I'll record like an hour for a video and then the final product will be like 2 minutes or something. It varies, but that's not an uncommon ratio. So I just sort of try a lot of different stuff, and then I end up deleting most of it. And so my first process is just to bring in all the footage, import it all in, and sort of cut out all the stuff that is obviously not good. The stuff that obviously sucks. And then I get maybe I've got 6 to 10 minutes of footage that I'm considering using or something. And then I'll just keep watching that over and over. And this is where, after a certain point, this starts to get really difficult and I kind of hate it. But I just keep watching it again and again, and I notice which parts get old to me, and I cut those parts. And then, so I just keep watching it, and I sort of it's like survival of the fittest or something. It's like the lines that keep seeming amazing to me, I'll keep. But the ones that were just kind of they're interesting the first time, but now they don't stand up to the test of watching them 20 times, those ones I'll often delete. But see, this reflects what I'm trying to do with my videos. I would like for my videos to be replayable, to have replay value, People sometimes say that they'll watch a certain video of mine each day, or they'll go back to it multiple times. And I like that about it, So obviously a lot of other YouTubers or people who make videos will just have a video of them talking about something, and it can be one take, no editing, and that works perfectly fine for them, But basically what I would say is that if you just make yourself watch something over and over, at least for me, you start to feel where the slow parts are, You start to feel where it's kind of more boring to get through one part. You might want to skip ahead past that part or something, And this form of editing might not be appropriate for everything. But what I do is I keep cutting around. I keep cutting the clips tighter so it's faster moving. I keep deleting the clips that are kind of more boring. Sometimes if I can't decide about a clip, I'll put it aside, I'll put it in a backup project or something so that I can use that clip for something else, or I can consider putting it back in later, but sort of take it out and see what the effect is on it. Another thing that I'll do oftentimes is if I'm working with music, at some point that factor will enter, and so I'll put a song in there, and then I'll start to think okay, where's the climax of this song? Where's the break in this song? Where is the music too loud, or is there vocals in the music that I'm not going to have me saying words? And so I'll leave empty spaces or put B-roll in that spot, or different things like that. And so then I'll start shaping the clips around it. Oftentimes, if there's an emotional peak in the song, I'll try to pair that up with any emotional peak in my words, so that it like, crescendo, it's like together, they're working in this synergistic way. Anyhow, so those are some considerations. I don't really have that much else to tell you other than just to do it. Practice, and you'll just discover what works for you. You'll discover your own shortcuts. Pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention to what works, and you'll like develop a little bit more of a formula so that you can speed along your own process, but while still hopefully keeping an open mind to doing different stuff occasionally. Sometimes I usually try to show a couple people before posting it on the internet, but it can be hard to know, like, trusting other people. Sometimes I'll show other people my video when it's nearing done, but it's not their feedback that really helps me, because usually they're just supportive. It's usually just a roommate who's just like, yeah, it's awesome, thank you for showing me. But I'll be like, but there were a couple things that I felt a little unsure about when I was showing it to you. Like, there's a few parts that feel like I could clip tighter or switch up or something. So anyway, those are some editing tips. I'm not a master with editing. Really, I'm just totally self-taught, and I did not go to school for film or anything. I don't really even have influences in film, so I'm really kind of ignorant to the craft and the practice, the history of film stuff. I just sort of, I do watch a decent amount of YouTube videos, so I guess that's sort of my genre, and just following my heart, you guys. Just following my heart. Okay, that was a great answer. Thank you. Oh, thank you. This next one that I'll talk to is just this, the question is, I'm vegetarian, transitioning now to being vegan, and I keep thinking about also becoming totally sober as well. I just wanted to hear about your experience in being sober and vegan. My biggest concern is when going sober and being vegan, will I be isolating myself from a lot of people somehow? So yes, I do not do the alcohol and drugs. It is a rare thing about me. Most of the people that I find in the art world and poet world and everything, they do some kind of drugs or at least drink, socially. And I am not really opposed to it. See, this is a thing, like, some people assume, and I think the longer version of this question even got into it a little bit, like assuming that the soberness is like an ethical thing for me, and it's not. It's really way more of a personal decision. I believe that for some people, not being sober is better, and I believe for other people, being sober is better. So I truly believe it's a personal thing. Now, I guess the question was mainly about, will I be isolating myself from a lot of people by being sober and vegan? And I will say that would totally depend upon you and your feelings about it, and I guess the people in question who you would or wouldn't associate with. Like, for me, I'd say that the majority of people that I associate with and have some amount of friendship with are not sober, so it doesn't, like, cut those people out of my life or anything. Now, it does maybe, like, just the fact that I don't really get into drinking and stuff, it maybe has this impact where I kind of don't feel like going to parties as much as some other people do, maybe that's the thing. And so then I don't get those social experiences as often, but it's by my own choosing, but it's because I've realized that, like, that's not really my thing. I don't know. Sometimes I feel that I do isolate myself by being sober, but it's not necessarily the case. You know what I'm saying? You could be the life of the party. You could be, right there with everybody doing the other stuff and be sober and vegan and whatever. So I don't think there's any I'd say just try it. Just try it, because there's no real harm in trying it for a bit. And then you can say, oh, that was working really well for me, or nah, that was really kind of pointless for me. That doesn't really get at anything useful for me. For me, I think I like being sober. It feels wholesome to me, but I know that wholesomeness is a concept that I should be very suspicious of. And I could talk more about that in another episode, but anyway, just know that I do not take that concept very seriously, but something about it feels good to me. But it's just what I do, you know, and it's sort of, it will make you, I think being sober and being vegan, but, you know, being sober will give you something to connect with to other people who are sober. That's for sure, because it's a different experience of life, you know, and it's just like, wow, okay, we share this experience of not doing something that like 90% of adults do or something. So it's just kind of, you know, it's you can just you know, try it out, yeah, you know, but whoop 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 whoop. All right, I'm about done. Let's just stretch out. You guys, I've been seeing a lot of people getting into stretching lately. Is that the new thing? Should I be getting into it? Are you into it? I had a couple different friends telling me they're doing stretches. I'm like, wow, you know, like not as part of a larger exercise regimen or anything, but just like, oh yeah, I got to do my stretches before bed or before in the morning or whatever, you know. It's like, wow, this is really the thing. Also, that movie, The Revenant, I keep hearing about it, you guys. Last night I listened to the soundtrack for it, and I'm like, this is a pretty good soundtrack. Should I watch the movie The Revenant? I don't know, you guys. I don't know. But that's sort of how I just sometimes I hear about things over and over and over. You know that author Maggie Nelson? I hear about her all the time. The people that I surround myself with love Maggie Nelson. I've dipped into like one of her books a little bit, and I was not that into it, but I'm going to try some other books of hers because I keep hearing good things. You know what I'm saying? You just can't deny that good word of mouth. Well. Hope you have a good fucking day. I'm looking at a chickadee right now. Little motherfucking chickadee just flew away. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have the best day. I hope you feel good. I hope if you don't feel good that it's okay and you'll persevere. You'll be okay. And you can try to eat something that has a good high water content in it. Get yourself some berries, get yourself some leaves and some juicy stone fruit, and just have a good day. Eat more whole plant foods if you can, and hail Satan if you want to. No pressure.